All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our third session in the Summer Digital Learning Series. I'm Chris Kerr, Schneider Electric Utility Offer Manager for the U.S. Today's session will introduce the power monitoring expert to everybody. By the end, you'll be pretty familiar with the ways how PME can help you guys extend the functionality of your existing ion meters and make the most of your existing equipment. And just a reminder, we have some upcoming sessions in the coming weeks, including some Sage RTUs, T300s, cybersecurity topics, and power quality correction and metering sessions. I'll paste the link to the invite in chat here in a minute. If there are any questions, please type them in chat, and we have some subject matter experts who can answer those as we go. And we'll also have some time at the end to do some question and answers with Michael. One of the things I wanted to mention as an extension to the topic that Michael's presenting is that we have a free Power Advisor executive summary available to our existing PME customers. So there's a link to the brochure in the link that I'm going to paste here in a second. Power Advisor just helps you to find data quality issues and power quality issues in your network. And so we will, if you have any questions on any of that, one of your account executives or your subject matter experts for your region can help you learn more about that. So with that, I'll pass it over to Michael Neese, who's going to present today's session. So again, thanks everybody for attending. And let us know if you have any questions in the chat.
Alrighty, thanks, Chris. So today we're going to be going through the end user interface for our EcoStruxure Power Monitoring Expert, the new version 2020 that just released this year. So we'll be going through and showing you what's in here, somewhat how to use the end user interface to get some of the data that you may need out of it, and just in general show you around the software product here as a demo. So over here on the screen, when you log into the web page of the software, it's going to land you on the dashboards page. And the dashboards page is here to share information from your system very easily with whoever your logs in. And your different logins can have different dashboard screens, and you can share from user to user. Say if you have an admin user that wants to share with some other folks. So you can have one person creating the dashboard screens and then generating those and sending those out to others, right? So in here, as you can see, there's a lot of different options of things that you can add in here. So basically, if your devices that you have out there in the field are gathering information, they're storing all that information back in a SQL database. And this dashboard screen has the ability to go and pull that database and pull that information into these screens. And then display those in a variety of different formats. So you can do everything from line graphs to pie charts to bar graphs, and lots of different things like that. Some common things that you may stick in here are things such as generation, demand, power information, energy information. So your load profile info can go in here. All of your power quality events can come into here as well. So you can see things like your sags and swells. Harmonics are pretty popular to stick in here as well. I'll just click through some of these screens so you can see some of the things that are available. Here is a real-time status table. So this is just bringing in real-time values off of out of your basically just making a data table here for you with your different meters that you have over here on the left-hand side. And then some different data points that we've decided to grab, like voltage, current, power, power factor over here. So it's just a quick, easy way to see information out of all your devices there. Some of the different power quality stuff that we've got in here. Sag swells, power quality incidents plotted into your Sabima curves. And if you're not familiar with the Sabima curve, basically this is a way to help you classify your power quality events to determine which are the most likely to damage electronic equipment. So basically, if you're inside the bounds of this chart, kind of in the center here, then you are less likely to damage electronic equipment with that power quality event. But if it's outside the bounds, then there's a good chance that it could. And those are generally the ones you want to look more deeply into. So it's just a way to help you classify and determine what's the most important stuff to look at with your power quality events that you have coming into your system. You can also do things like statistics and breaking down what kinds of actual events you're getting. So of all the things that, all of our power quality events, how many were sags versus swells versus transients. So just a breakdown of that over a period of time. Unbalanced trends, harmonics trends, any sorts of trends that you want to do with your data can be done with these screens. You can also bring your reporting in to these screens as well. So if you have some power quality reports that you're running, you can bring those into these screens. And we'll jump more into the reports over here in the reporting section and what all you can do with that. But you can bring those in over here onto your dashboard screens as well. Some more detailed harmonics information, frequency, so all kinds of different stuff as far as power quality goes. So all that kind of stuff can be brought in here. Some transmission info. You can do system frequency, unbalances for your voltages. You can actually bring weather data into the system as well and link to web pages. So that's what's being done over here. Power factor info. So there's just a very wide variety of things that you could do with these screens. And another example of things that's pretty common is key account customers. So you can actually break this down by your individual key accounts and have stuff like their demand, current and voltage at that plant, their energy values, their power that they're consuming, and you can compare it day by day, week by week, month by month. So we have a month by month comparison over here. So this one's this month versus last month, and it moves forward in time as you keep going. So all kinds of different stuff you can kind of see in here. So one of the nice things is there's, as of PME 9.0 and 2020, you can break out your individual users to only be able to see their information. So you can create these screens for, say, if you wanted to give access to some of your customers out there, they would be able to log in to these screens and they would only see their meters and their information without seeing everybody else. So that's one of the things that you can do with these screens here. I think that's pretty much it as far as the dashboard screens go. Oh, there's me talking about a meter, apparently. The next area of the software product is called diagrams. And this can be customized to a variety of different looks and feels. But the idea here is you can drill down into the nitty-gritty details of your actual devices that you have on your system. So basically what you do is you, or when you install the system, you set up a few diagram pages to show all of the meters that you have on your system. And you may have some sort of map that you drill down into, or a one-line diagram that you drill into, or a map that drills into a one line, which drills into your meters. But you start high level and basically work your way down. So in this case, we've got a map of a service territory kind of scaled down here a little bit. But it's got different information, and these would be real-time values that update on your screen about different things that you've got going on. So in this case, it's a generation. So here's some solar farm info and how much it's generating, a power plant over here, wind farm, nuke plant, and then some demand information about the city over here. So just some general kind of, if you wanted to go with a kind of a map view, this is something that we could kind of set up for you. And it doesn't have to be this 3D detailed. It could be like service territory or something like that. We can also do things like one-line diagrams. So if you want to have a one-line diagram of your substation with your meters on it and some real-time information about those devices that's quick and easy to view. This is something that we do a good bit of as well. And each one of these devices you can drill down into. So if I wanted to drill down into this 8650 meter, for example, it's going to give me all the information about that on 8650 meter. Here is all of my real-time information. So my voltage, my current, my power. So my standard kind of quantities are here on the first page. And we've got a bunch of breakouts of different types of information as you move across. So on the volts amps tab, you'll also notice that there's a logs button here that you can click on. And this will get you into some of the historical information for that. So your voltage, current, and power. So let's say I wanted to have a look at the voltage for this 8650 meter that I've got out there. I can click on it and it's going to give me the data table for that device. And you can change the date range up here on the top of what you're looking at to show you different date ranges and things like that. And then you can also plot this information. So let's say I want to see my three-phase voltages here. So I grab the AB or AB, BC, and CA mean values here. And then I can say, show me the graph of that. And here it'll show me the graph and graph those voltages over time at this 8650. To get back to the table, you simply just click on the show table. You can also do things like show me the mean, the high, and the low value of a particular phase and show that graph. So here I can see the min, max, and average of this particular voltage. And you can auto scale these axes if you want to zoom in a little bit to get a more detailed view. And you can also scroll in as much as you want on these pages as well. So those are your logs. So going back, power quality information is also in here. So right here are all of my logged power quality events. So if, let's say I wanted to view a sag swell event that I've got coming onto my system, they would show up here. Doesn't look like this meter has any. Yeah. So, but they would be there along with your waveforms that you could view in there as well. And we'll have a look at the waveforms here. We'll find one over in the alarm section here. Your harmonics are over here and the harmonics trending as well as details. So it's going to roll up your THD information here, but if you hit the details button, it's going to get into your mins and maxes as well as your individual harmonics. By default, we're going out to the 15th on voltage 1, 2, and 3, but you can expand upon this and go much further out if you need to. So current and voltages are here. Revenue information is in here as well. So this is where all of your energy and demand information is going to come in. So it's going to read all the real-time information here. And then your load profile is down here in the bottom right. And you can click on that and see your load profile that you're recording on these devices. And then, of course, you can plot those as well. So if I want to plot my KW and KVAR, you can plot those as well. Maybe. Freeze. There we go. So here's my kWh over time at the site. So that's your revenue tab. There's also more information over here, your peak demands, minimum demands, energy by quadrants. If you're using time of use on your meters, there's some information on time of use. Test mode values. So if you got the meter in test mode, you can view some information about that. And then all of your loss compensation settings are over here as well. So you can see all that information in here too. Inputs and outputs. So if you're using your digital inputs or outputs on your device for either pulsing or bringing information in or sharing statuses or any sorts of things like that, these screens can be changed and customized to show you the statuses or the pulse counts or things like that that you may want to see off of your I/O points of the meter. So all that information is in here, and then there, if you've got one of the expander boxes, there's an expansion link over here if you've got one of those connected to the device as well. Set points, this is for any alarms that you may have on your meter and showing you the status of those and the present value that those set points are at. If you've got other alarms, we can add those to the screen. So you can expand upon this, change it around, but these are kind of the ones that come default here on these diagrams here. And then your final piece here is your setup and diagnostic, and this has information about the meter setup. So you have everything from your volts mode to your PT, CT ratios, communications information, metering information, so your template, firmware revisions, information about how the clock is set up. So all that kind of info is over here, as well as the part numbers and stuff like that. And there's more information if you go into the general setup. You can see things like if it's in primary versus secondary units, or what the meter mode is, LED pulsar modes, and stuff like that. So all your setup and diagnostic info is over here on the far right. So these are if you click on a meter, you're going to see these same general screens for any device. Anything above that are more of the customized screens that you can have within the system to show you different types of information. It can be detailed like this, but it could also be something as simple as a list of your meters classified by types or by customer or things like that, depending on how you want it set up. So we'll just have a look at a few more of these screens here. There's a transmission network there. Here's a regional energy usage map, energy usage intensity map. So these different areas can change colors depending on how many or how much energy usage and the thresholds are, how the thresholds are set here. So we can do things like that. Wind generation site. So if you want to have information about a wind site or even a solar site, same sort of deal. You can have your some photos here, as well as some energy and information from that you may have installed there. You got an 8650 and a 7400, and of course you can drill down into these just like before. Transformer monitoring. So we can do things like that. So if you've got some statuses coming in from any transformers, doesn't necessarily have to be a transformer. This could be a generator, it could be a motor, it could be a breaker, it could be all kinds of stuff. So if you've got equipment out there and you're bringing in statuses or oil pressures or temperatures or all kinds of stuff, if you're bringing that back into your meters and into the system, we can display that with a picture like this, or you can take an actual picture and put it in the background, or simply just have a listing of information here if you wanted to. Here's some thermal monitoring of some transformers. So this is just bringing in some temperature statuses off of a transformer. So we can do all kinds of stuff like that over here. So those are your diagrams pages and some of the things that we can do with those. The next area of this software is called Trends. And what this does is provide real-time trending information from different devices. So basically what you do here is you go in and you select a site that you would like to look at, or multiple sites even if you want to, and a piece of information off of those devices or a couple pieces of information. So for example, in this case, we're taking a wind generation demand value, and we're doing it with both kW and kVAR and plotting that output here. And this is just with some different generation sites. So up here we've got demand information, and down here at the bottom we've got some voltage information that we're showing here. And as you can see, as I hover over these, it gives you the actual data points on a little pop-up window there. So these just scroll across. They update automatically over time. You can save these for your different devices that you may have out there. You can add these, close them down, add different ones in, and you can just switch them around. So anything that you save over on the left, you can add to the right. And the information can be anything that you're recording or that you have on your devices. Any real-time piece of information you can bring in here, and it will automatically start plotting that over time. So pretty simple area here. All right, this next section is the alarming section. And this is one of the areas where they spent a lot of time over the past couple of years improving. If you're used to seeing some of the older revisions of this, you'll notice that this is a little bit different than what you may have seen in the past. And this one that they've got showing here is a pretty good example of how they've changed it. So what they've done is, instead of showing you every single event every single disturbance or event that you have coming in from your entire system, from all of your meters, what we're doing here is applying a little intelligence to the alarming and the displaying of it. So what we do is we say if a bunch of sag swell events come in from across your system from multiple devices, they most likely came from the same event if they're within the same hierarchy. And we group those together into one incident that you can then drill into if you would like to see more information about it. So for example, in this incident that we're displaying here, we are showing that 7 devices were affected in this series of events. There were 7 sags within this incident, as we're calling it. And the total load loss that we had on our system was 6%. So we can see, so instead of getting 7 individual events here, we're showing you one thing and giving you some information about it. And then over here on the right-hand side, we can drill into more details. So there's 2 different ways to view this. The first way is to use a timeline analysis. So if I click on this, what this is going to do is show you information about how long the incidents lasted and show you when they occurred for each one of these devices. So you can kind of see the series of events and how long they're lasting. So you have the start point and end point of each one of these events from when the meter captured it, and how they're being affected over all of these different devices and waveforms and events that came in. So this one looks like it occurred about at the same time for all of these, but they could be somewhat staggered here, so you can see which ones were affected in order. So you can do some, if you've got some good time syncing on your devices, then you can do some sequence of events type things with this. Right. So the other view is the details view. And this is going to drill into the details of each one of the events that occurred. It's going to tell you all of the devices. And if you click on any one of these, it will bring you back over into these screens so you can view more details. So if you wanted to get into the power quality screens and stuff like that, you could do that. It's also going to tell you things like the worst event that you had, the impact of the load, and how this full incident was affected as far as that goes. It's going to show you your individual alarms that came in. So all of those individual incidents will be listed here. And you can view the details of an individual incident over here by drilling in further. So if I wanted to see one particular one, I can go to here. Then X back out to get back. So you could view each one of these if you wanted to. It's also going to show you all of the entries out of the meter event logs. So it's going to gather all of those from all the devices and show you all the information from all of that. Then we're going to show you everything on a ITIC Sabima curve or the semi F47, which is the SAG curve. So you can see all that information, and you can see all of our events kind of landed outside the bounds of this down here. And finally, we're also going to give you the waveforms of all of these. And you can see them all together so that you can kind of compare them against each other. Here's all the currents of all these and the voltages as well. You can inspect each one of these individually. And if you go in and view these individually, you can just view the voltages if you want. You can view an individual phase if you would like to. You can also add the RMS plot to this or show only the RMS. And then you also have a more zoomed in area of what you see here. So this window that you can see scrolling across, you can see exactly kind of what's happening there. So you can get this right on top of kind of where it starts to go bad and see what's happening. So here you can see that there's a degradation of the sine wave here. So you got a sag Cohen. And as you scroll this across as well, you also notice that your phasers change as well. So it's going to give you detailed phaser information during this event. Down below, all of your harmonics information during this event for the first 15 are shown as well. So you can see all that information there. I've unchecked the current, so those aren't there. So if you check those back, you'll see your current harmonics as well. So a lot of good information here. You can also do the extended waveform. That'll blow up the top piece of this and get rid of all the, or basically make everything bigger so that you can see it better. So you can do that as well. And then there's some advanced options to tweak and play with a lot of this stuff, tweak the colors and the axes and all kinds of stuff like that. You also notice that there's two buttons down here. There's an export waveform, so you can export this out of the system if you would like to and share that with others as a CSV file format. And then you can also compare waveforms to other waveforms. So if you wanted to compare this waveform that you're seeing here to something from another device and see those side by side, you can do that with the compare waveform. So they've done a lot of work here. I think they've done a pretty good job of breaking down and taking a lot of feedback from the users to really get in here and show some good information with the power quality events. You can also zoom in and zoom out here, and you can use these if you want to do that. So lots of good stuff in here. So that's your waveform viewer, as well as your incident reports. So all that information's in here. You can save a bunch of different items here. This one's showing recent events, but you could also show me anything that's active right now. So in this case, we don't have any active alarms. You can show me all alarms that have occurred. Any sorts of, show me all the power quality events that have happened. So there's all kinds of different filters. You can do it by date ranges. All kinds of different stuff are options in this alarming area. So you can set up all kinds of different views and save those. All right, so that's our alarming and event area.
Hey, Michael, sorry,
Yeah,
one quick
sure.
question. We got a couple of questions in chat just asking about, is there any way to label those events, and also can we associate those with an outage database or an equipment operation database?
Right now, we could, with this alarming interface, there's the export for CSV files, which could possibly be picked up. You could also schedule some reports to go out to drop files out of this system that could possibly be picked up by other systems. There's also ways that we may be able to customize and what we call an ETL export to move data from one place to another. And then there's certain software packages out there that can link directly into this PME database to pull information out, or even link directly to the meters as well. So there could possibly be options to get this from one software package to another. It's going to be kind of on a case-by-case basis and exactly what you're working with as far as what the other software program is. But we can talk more about that offline, about your specific instances of that. And then what was the other question? Oh yeah, the classification. So classifications of events right now, that's not something that's in here, but I think it's one of those things that they're looking at as a possible enhancement in the future. Because some of our other software products used to do that are in the stages of going away. But right now, as of right now, you can't. I don't believe that you can classify the events. But I do believe that that's something that they're looking from porting into some softwares that we're getting away from into here. I believe that's on the roadmap.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're fine. All right, the final piece of this end user interface of this software product is our reporting area. And this is what I feel is one of the best areas and most useful areas of the software package. And this is a way to basically do all of your reporting and schedule that so that it's automatic. So if you're running a lot of Excel sheets to gather data from your devices, or manually running power quality reports for folks, or doing a lot of the manual day-to-day stuff that you may be required to do, this is a way to automate a lot of those processes. So there's a variety of different reports in here to gather a lot of different kinds of information. I'm going to show you several of the ones that are in here so that you have an idea of some of the things that are possible that I think would be useful for you guys. But this reporting area, you can schedule any of these on a scheduled basis. So if you want to say show or automatically run these meters load profiles every month and have it show up on the printer or show up in my email box or show up in a file location, that can be set up to automatically do things like that. We can also run things on event. So if you said, if X meter at a customer site sends back a sag swell or transient delay for X amount of time, 5 minutes, 20 minutes, and then gather all the events that may have occurred and send those out automatically in a report to these people or to this file location or wherever you want it to go, basically. So that's the idea here, automatically scheduling on a time period or automatically scheduling these reports to run on event. As far as stuff that's available, one of the most common things is simply just a data table. So our tabular report allows you to gather multiple devices or one device with multiple pieces of information and export that into just a simple data table. So it just goes and grabs all the data from whatever device you have and plots it here for you. And then once it's run, you can download that out of the system or print it. You can also rotate them and stuff like that if you want to. But there's a variety of different download formats available. If you click that one, it's PDF. But if you schedule these, it can come out in CSV or I believe XML or some image files, PDF. But there's a variety of different formats that you can choose. These are already pre-saved PDF saved reports here that we've just automatically generated, so we don't have to wait for them to generate. We also have this system configuration report. In this, if you're familiar with the adding your devices into the system, there's a piece of the software called the management console, and it's simply where you add all your devices and all their communications information, and then gives you some general information about how or whether or not it's connected. And this documents everything that you've got in there. So it's got all of your devices, what device type they are, what their communications information is, the site name that you put in for it, the current status of it, whether or not it's communicating, and then the protocol that it's communicating with. And then finally, if you've added a description in for any of those devices, that's going to be exported here as well. So that's one of the reports in the system. Event history report. So if you're doing any troubleshooting or things like that, or just want to export this event history off of your system, this is going to go gather all the events that have occurred. So you can see here there's a bunch of sag swells and disturbances in this particular item. And you'll notice here that it's telling us some information from these disturbances. So captures the disturbance, but it's also giving you directional information. So this particular disturbance came from upstream of this device. But it could say upstream or downstream of the event that occurred. So all that information shows up in the event history reports. Dashboard reports. This is something that's somewhat new. So we had a look at dashboards earlier, and any of the dashboard pages that you create can also be turned into a report that can be run and exported. So if you've got some good information or want to share that with somebody, you can run a report off of a dashboard page and quickly send that out to somebody. Those are some of your general reports. There's also energy management reports. These are one of the main ones that's run here is the load profile report, which I'll show you guys. So it just graphs your load profile here, and then it also marks the peak demand and gives you the value right down here with the max value. So that's what the X is marking. So load profile reports are here. So KW, KVAR, KVA. And then your demand information as well. So that's what's in that report. There's also all kinds of other energy analysis items that you could do. These period over period reports could be handy. You can do today versus the previous day of energy consumption, and you can do it for multiple meters if you wanted to. You could do month versus month, week versus week. So any sorts of comparisons that you want to do are all in here. Energy costs, so applying actual costs to your demand or your energy and demand information. We can set up any sorts of things like that that you want to do. So all kinds of stuff like that's in here. So all kinds of comparisons, and this is really your energy kind of area. Looks like they're still working on that one. Let's see. Power quality reports are in here as well. So let's have a look at, start here with the power quality report. So this is an example of one of the power quality reports. This is plotting over whatever period of time that you would like to see all the events that occurred within the time period, and then plotting those, and you can pick and choose whatever curve you want to see. They've chosen a bunch of them and lined them all up on here, but you can pick and choose just one if you want to. But they got a few different options as far as the charts that you can put on here go. Then they're going to give you detailed information about the incident that occurred, which meter had the power quality event occur here, the type of event it was, the worst phase during the event that caused the event, the duration, and the magnitude. So all that information is in there. It's also going to highlight in red the worst of all of them. So the worst offender, it's also going to highlight for you. So if you ran over time, and you can kind of see it in there. So it's got all that, and then it's got this incident statistics down here. So it's got the durations of all these events, how many sags or swells or transients. So it's just classifying them into different IEEE classifications here for you. You can also drill down into any of these further. We've got a sub-report, a power quality incident sub-report, which kind of breaks up that previous one and only shows you one event, but you kind of get that same information about that individual event. If you're looking at this in the system, instead of a saved report, you can actually drill down into the waveforms themselves and the timestamps. You can also run waveform reports. So if you just wanted to run the waveform from particular events that you're getting, or over a period of time, you get the sinusoidal waveform as well as the RMS waveforms. The X's that you see here are the trigger point of when the event triggered. So you get the pre and post event cycles with your events. And then it breaks it out down here into your individual phases for voltage and current, for sinusoidal, and your RMS. And it does that for all the phases. So that's your waveform report. You also have things like your harmonics reports. So this is there's a framework in some of our ION 9,000 meters for this report. So if you have an ION 9,000, you can run this harmonic compliance 2014 report. There's a framework in there that you can set up, but it basically shows you pass-fail on your IEEE 519 limits. So you can see how many kind of fall within these different ranges. For if you're familiar with this harmonic standard, basically it's counting up the events that fall within these different buckets and telling whether or not they go outside the bounds and whether or not they pass or fail. And then breaking down all of your individual harmonics down here. So THDs, individual harmonics for voltages, as well as the limits. The limits are what you see on each one of those. So all that gets plotted here, and it's plotting your thresholds as well as your individual harmonics, just so that you can see the graphs as well. There's a lot of good information in there. We also have a 4-30 IC 61000 4-30 report. So this is having a look at some of your things like frequency, and then your 2-hour interval data for some different parameters, supply voltage unbalances. So, and then some data tables for your harmonics and your voltages and RMS, how many disturbances, your negative and positive sequence values over here on the right as well. So all that information can be run on any device as well. Those are most of the power quality reports there. There are also trend reports in here under your usage trending. So you can pretty much plot any piece of information that you want. So this one's plotting energy information, but this could be voltage, current, power, demand, frequency, power factor. You can add thresholds anywhere you want to on these. So this one's got a threshold at 200. You can also leave that off if you wanted to. With these trends, you can have the trends as well as add a data table to it if you want to. You can have multiple meters. You can have multiple pieces of information. If you wanted 3-phase voltages on here, you can add them all in here. Any sorts of trend report, anything you want to trend can go in here. Here's one with multiples in it. So this has 2 different meters here with their power values or demand values here. So you can compare them. And this one looks like it's adding some data tables down here for those. Single device usages. So this is just looking at your block demand for this particular meter. So lots of info in there along with your period totals. So those are your usage reports. There's also some optional reports, and these are add-ons. So what I've shown you so far all comes standard with the product. So anything that you've seen there is going to come when you order the product. There's some additional stuff that you can add in here. I'll just quickly show you some of the more interesting ones that if you have a need for them, you can add these onto your software package. One of which is the Power Advisor reports. This is some stuff that technical support runs, and this is what Chris was talking about beforehand on some of the things that they can run for you. They're doing a free trial of these right now, so if you have a system and you want to try these out, you can do so. There's a data quality report that runs, and it basically just compares your previous versus your current Power Advisor reports together. And it basically gathers some different issues that they may have found and then compares that to issues that they may have previously found and whether or not those are resolved or not. Also gets into the detailed data quality. So basically having a look at the data in your system and checking whether or not that it's good data, and then giving you basically a score of how they see your system that you have. So it goes through and looks for things like misconfigured PTs and CTs or miswired meters. I think it looks for some other things, firmware mismatches. So you can tell it what firmware version that you want certain things at, and it goes and checks for things like that. But I think there's several different things that they can look for. That's just an example of some of the things that they're looking at. This is underreporting. They can look for things like gaps and things like that in your system, or whether your energy consumption seems to be suspect, any sorts of things like that. So they're looking for all kinds of different data quality issues in these reports. This is a data quality executive report. They're looking for everything from missing data. Here's some zero values that it found. So this gets us the very, very detailed information, flat hierarchies, devices being flagged, data spikes. So firmware mismatches. So all kinds of different stuff. So looking for anomalies in your data in a report to help you identify things, because if you've got a lot of devices and a lot of meters on your system, a lot of times it's just way too big of an undertaking to view everything. And this is a way that we can apply some intelligence to looking through the data and churning through it and finding some common things that you may need to find. So this is something that we can do. We also have these electrical health reports. In this, just like before, we have a comparison from what they identified last time to what's been resolved. A detailed view with an electrical health score. So this is looking at things such as degraded winding insulations, heating, saturated cores of power transformers, trying to identify a lot of different information as far as this kind of stuff goes, voltage imbalances, under voltages, transformer overcapacities, excessive lagging power factors, harmonic distortion conditions, lots of different things like that we're just looking through the actual electrical data and trying to identify what devices you may have out there with issues. And then just like before, we have a more detailed view that's going to show you every single event that it finds. So these are everything from power quality, harmonics, and under and over voltages, to any of those other items like we saw on the detailed screens. So as Chris mentioned, we're kind of offering some free runs of these reports at the moment. So if this is something you're interested in, just let us know if you've got a system, and we're happy to run some on your system and let you try them out. But this is something that can be run all the time on your system by the tech support group. It's one of the services that they offer. We've also got some, this is another add-on. These are some power quality analysis and impact reports. So this is trying to break down some of the events on your system that you may be getting and giving you more information on those, and trying to apply some intelligence to a lot of the events that are coming in, and trying to tell you how many of these power quality events that I've got coming in are more likely to do more damage, or what is my overall flicker on the system or unbalance and things like that. So trying to roll up a lot of information and give you more high-level information that you can then go look further into. So there's an analysis report. There's also this impact report to see how downtime may apply to cost and things like that. So if you want to apply downtime versus cost, you can do things like that with this impact report. Let's see. We also do, we have the ability to do modeling. So if you want to monitor things like energy usage versus weather or temperature and things like that, or maybe you're monitoring a building and you want to monitor energy usage versus capacity or things like that. Any of these modeling reports can be run off of that. So basically, we go through and have a look at, or the model has a look at your past data, comes up with a regression line over and finds a correlation between the pieces of data that you want to compare between, and then creates a model for that. And then when you run these reports, it takes the expected model and runs what's actually happening right now versus your model, and then compares the two. And it can be run on different intervals and stuff like that, and it'll have your data points versus the regression line of what it expects. So you can see different things, and these can vary depending on how many data points you have and how good your regression lines are. And when you're doing your modeling, there are some tools to tell you how good your model is, and stuff like that, and how much it correlates and stuff. So if you've got any folks that are doing any modeling or have any interest in things like that, those are an optional thing that you can add on. Energy analysis reports. So everything from doing any KPIs that you may have. There's different KPI engines to do daily calculations off of KPIs that you may have. Multiple equipment operations, so you can just see usage for different pieces of equipment that you may have, hours of operation, different things like that. So a lot of things in here on the energy analysis. This may or may not apply for you guys, but you know what's in here. I think that's most of the additional add-ons. It's also add-ons for pieces of equipment, like if you have generators, motors, breakers, stuff like that, they're bringing in UPSs. We've got some reports on stuff like that, billing reports. So there's different rate engines and things that we have available if you're looking for doing different bills and stuff like that, and rates and things. That might be something that you're interested in adding on. Breaker performances, capacity management. So if any of those things interest you, those are available as well in here.
Hey, Mike, we had a question in chat from somebody who was asking about hooking up or bringing in information from switchgear. So maybe the breaker performance would be interesting for those guys.
Sure. So what we have in the breaker performance is a circuit breaker aging report. So if you're bringing in breaker information, basically it has a look at your switchboard here, the level that it's at. So some of these, it could be minimal, moderate versus critical. And then the basically the electrical aging percentage of these items, as well as the electrical wear. So it's going to break down that for all of your different breakers there. And then you can have it separated out by your switchboards. So that's kind of what that report is. And then there's also a circuit breaker settings report. So this is done off of some MicroLogic breakers that we sell, but it's got basically your protection standard, your serial, your protection type, and then your rated voltages, currents, and frequency, number of poles for this, and date of data reading of when this report was run. And that's what that one is. So that's what's in there for the breaker performance. I see a question there. Maybe I missed it, but is there a report or function for batch device firmware upgrades? No. So fleet management is something that's one of the things that's been a big topic of discussion over here for the future. but currently no. Let's see. So that's pretty much what's in the software package. At this point, let me mute that. So at this point, we can open it up for any questions that folks have. Feel free to unmute and ask some questions that you have. I'll do my best to answer anything that you've got. Now just open up the floor.
Yeah, there's one question from Joseph. Says, if limits and loading alarms are not currently set, is there a batch process that can be ran if the transformer sizes can be gathered for the meters, or would it be one that you'd have to do manually one by one?
So is there a report that can be run over the transformer sizes? Is that the question?
I think if the limits and loading alarms are not currently set, is there a way you can sort of batch go in and set those instead of doing it one by one, kind of after the fact, I guess?
Don't believe so.
And then there was another question, is the system smart enough to look at issues where the voltage drop out, but all three currents remain unaffected, so indicating that there's an issue with bad or failing PTs?
We can certainly set up alarms for that. That shouldn't be a problem. That'd be more on the meter level that reports back to the software. But we can certainly monitor your individual phase voltages for dropouts, and you can set the individual limits to be wherever you want that load to be to alarm on that. That's one of the default alarms in there, is things like phase open and things like that. So that should actually automatically report back here. So that would show up if you clicked on active alarms and you had an open phase. You should see that in here.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll stop talking now, and I'll let anybody ask their questions directly if they'd like.
I have a question. It's kind of piggybacking on what I asked in the chat board in regards to importing customer data. So I'm the utility. I have about 300 high consumer customers that have Ion 8650. I think they're the Alphas, the top of the line one that brings back all the data. Now, you showed me the circuit breaker report. If we're able to import their data and kind of bring that in, could we assign them logins where they could actually start leveraging the software? Is there a login read-only kind of access for customers?
Yes, you can do that as long as you're at least version 9.0. So if you're at 9.0 or 2020, you can do that. Basically, what you do is, I've got this set up at one of my customers, and how we set it up was we put the application piece of the software in the DMZ to where it's public access, basically, and then put the database behind their firewall and stuff like that to keep the data safe. So we bring the data back, and then we created individual logins for a couple of their customers. And with those logins, we assign them basically read-only access to where they can come in and they can view these screens, but they can't change anything or manipulate or anything like that. And they provide the dashboards that they can see with the information that they want. They can only see their meters. So they can't go and view. So if they're I don't know, a steel customer, they can't go see, I don't know, wastewater treatment guy over here. So you can narrow it down to their individual meters, so that they only see the information from their stuff. So that is an option of things that we can do.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yep. Other questions? You guys let me off easy this time.
Yeah.
Michael, will this be recorded? Is the recording going to be available like it has been on the last webinars?
Yes, absolutely.
Yep. I've got it recording now, and I'll stop it here in a minute if there's no questions and post it up to the link. I'll post the link again where it'll be available. So.
Michael,
you-
this is Scott Bell.
Yep.
Got a question.
Sure.
When you load PME, does this automatically set itself up, or is there something special you have to do to set up the web view for PME?
The data comes in automatically. So once you connect your meters to the system, the software knows how to go to all your ion meters, go out and gather the data off of it and store it in the database. The screens themselves will have all of that data that it gathers automatically available to you. But let's say the dashboard pages here, these won't be automatically set up here. We have basically you drag and drop these different gadgets onto the screen and say, I want this piece of information off of these meters. The diagrams, these are configured with Vista. You can automatically generate a network diagram, which is kind of, if you've done that before, that's the plain gray screen where all your meters show up by their name. But if you wanted any, customized views of, say, like a one-line diagram or stuff like this, this is stuff that would have to be customized, right? We do offer services to set all this stuff up. So if you want fancy screens and stuff like that, we have folks that can do that for you. And even if you already have a system and you want to expand upon what you currently have, we can do just screens for you and stuff like that. So that's things we can do. All your alarms are automatically going to come in. You'll have to create, so it's got some filters that'll automatically show up here of some common things, like show me all the alarms or all the active alarms and stuff like that. But you can create additional views, like if you wanted a last month view or something like that, you can create additional ones. And then the trends, there's nothing saved in here. You've got to basically say, I want this piece of information to show up here in my trends. And then with your reports, all the reports will be there, but nothing's saved, right? So you have to set up the template for the report and tell it when to run. So in short, it gets you most of the way there by gathering all the data and having it available to you. But the presentation of it, a lot of that is user configurable.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
This is Matt. You said back at your dashboards, with 9.0, you get some of those dashboards, or are those
dashboards came along at version 7.0, I believe, is when they introduced the dashboards. They've increased the number of things you can do in here over the course of time since 7.0. But the actual dashboards, they introduced those at version 7.0, I believe, right around there.
Okay, but basically they'll be there and you can customize them as you need.
Yep, exactly. Any other questions out there?
I apologize. I joined late, but did you in the reports tab? Did you describe the best way to like, we'll say blast reports out? So we have a template. It has a trigger. The trigger happens. It captures it in a pre-formatted report, and then we want it to go hit an email server. So did you talk to that at all, or can you?
So we described kind of that you can have your reports run on a scheduled basis or on event like you're describing. Basically, the way it works, so if you're doing an on event, what we have is the event watcher. And kind of what it does is this event watcher is looking for anything coming into the event log of the software. And what comes into there is all the event logs of all the meters that you have on your system, as well as it could be things also coming out of your virtual areas like the VIP. So if you set up custom alarms in the software and stuff like that, those are also going to show up in there. But what it does is it looks for anything that you tell it to look for. So for example, if I want to look for a SAG to come in the system, I can tell it to look for a SAG for SAGs for all of my meters. I could tell it to look for SAGs for these 3 individual meters, or so on and so forth. So first, what I do is I set up my event watcher to look for what I want to key on for the report. Once you have that piece set up, you then set up your reports that you want to run when it finds said event. And you then you basically link it to the event watcher event that you created. So when you save the report, you go in and say, I want to subscribe to this, run on event, and then it'll bring up the event watcher drop down, and you'll see the things that you've created in there, and you just select whichever one that you created for this report to run. And then anytime the system sees that event come into the system, it will then generate the report and then send it over to the SMTP server, and then it will go out to your recipients list, which you also specify.
Okay, thank you. And that's, I think, kind of how we're set up. My only concerns that I have, at least with our system, is the lag. So we have multiple meters, say a single meter triggers. We don't see that email for about 8 minutes. If it's we'll say more system-wide event that triggers lots of meters, that first email usually doesn't hit us for until the 1.5 to 2 hour mark after the event. And I wasn't sure if it was something internal to our system or if there's something that we could do better in the software.
You may have a little bit of both going on. I know oftentimes when something's queuing through an SMTP server, there's a lot of checks and things like that go on in advance for like single events and stuff like that are going to cause some delay. I've in some areas where I do have this set up at my customers, they're seeing similar delays with their SMTP server. But if I send something that's already done through their SMTP server, I see the same delay. So for them, we've pretty much identified that the checks that their SMTP server does on the messages going through are a good bit of that delay. Now for your system-wide events, that may be more you may have some delay on the amount of information that it has to gather to run a system-wide report. So the more information it has to parse through in the database, the longer that time period can become. But there could be some optimization things that we could do with your database to kind of maybe pare it down a little bit, or maybe work on some ways where we might be able to optimize a little bit to speed up the process. So that might be something that we could work with you with a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Any other questions? Okay. Well, if there's no more questions, I'd like to thank everybody for attending the session. Hopefully you got some good information out of this. If you have additional things that you want to send me offline, feel free to do so. Chris will be providing that link to this recording, as we mentioned before. So thanks everyone for coming, and we'll hopefully see you for the next one.
You bet. Thank you, Michael.
Thanks, yep, Michael. You're welcome. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff.